On my 70th birthday, instead of cake and candles, my son handed me brochures for nursing homes. While I was reading them in shock, my daughter-in-law was in my bedroom photographing my jewelry for the estate sale they'd already scheduled for next week. Before we start, don't forget to like this video, comment where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. Have you experienced something like this? Please let me know in the comments. My name is Barbara Coleman. I'm 70 years old from Phoenix, and this is the story of how I turned my birthday surprise into the worst day of my son's life and reclaimed everything he tried to steal from me. I should have known something was wrong when Timothy insisted on hosting my 70th birthday dinner. In 38 years, he'd never once offered to host anything. Not Thanksgiving, not Christmas, not even a casual Sunday lunch. But suddenly, for my 70th, he was Martha Stewart incarnate, insisting it had to be at his house, insisting on handling everything, insisting I just show up and be celebrated. The dinner was on a Saturday, March 15th, but the strange behavior had started weeks earlier. Timothy began dropping by unexpectedly, something he hadn't done since he needed money for his failed restaurant venture 5 years ago. He'd walk through my house with this calculating look, asking odd questions. "Mom, have you ever thought about downsizing? This place must be exhausting to maintain. All these stairs can't be safe at your age." His wife, Christine, had become suddenly affectionate, which should have been my biggest red flag. The woman who once called me exhaustingly traditional at Thanksgiving was now bringing me tea, asking about my health, commenting on how isolated I must feel in my big house. She'd run her fingers along my mother's antique dresser, peek into closets, take pictures of rooms for memories. I lived in a 4,000-square-foot Spanish colonial in Paradise Valley, the house my late husband Richard and I had bought in 1979 for $80,000. It was now worth $2.8 million, sitting on an acre of prime Phoenix real estate with mountain views and a pool we'd installed when Timothy was 10. Every tile, every plant in the garden, every piece of furniture held 45 years of memories. "You rattle around in there like a penny in a jar," Timothy said one afternoon, uninvited in my kitchen. "It's not healthy, Mom. People your age need community, support, structured environments." People my age? I was 70, not dead. I still played tennis 3 times a week, ran the neighborhood book club, volunteered at the library, and managed my own investment portfolio that had grown to over $3 million thanks to Richard's life insurance and my own careful management. But to Timothy, 70 meant expired, irrelevant, in the way. The night of my birthday, I dressed carefully in the navy dress Richard had loved, added my pearl necklace, and drove myself to Timothy's house in Scottsdale. I should have known something was wrong when I saw the cars, too many for a family dinner. A silver Lexus I didn't recognize, a Honda with a Sunset Manor decal, another sedan that screamed professional services. Timothy met me at the door with an enthusiasm that felt rehearsed. "Happy birthday, Mom! Everyone's so excited to celebrate you." Everyone? I'd expected Timothy, Christine, and my 2 grandchildren. Instead, the living room held strangers arranged like an intervention. A woman in a coral blazer with an aggressive smile and iPad at the ready. A man in khakis holding folders with photos of beaming seniors playing cards. A younger woman with a measuring tape actually hanging from her belt. And in the corner, my grandchildren, Sophia and Ethan, looking uncomfortable and confused. "Mom," Timothy began, guiding me to a chair they'd clearly positioned for this ambush, "we want to talk about your next chapter." Christine appeared with what should have been a birthday cake, but was instead a stack of brochures. Sunset Manor, Active Senior Living, Desert Rose Assisted Care, Golden Years Residences. Each one glossier than the last, full of stock photos of silver-haired people looking thrilled to be institutionalized. "We've done so much research," Christine gushed, her voice hitting that patronizing tone usually reserved for toddlers. "These places are wonderful, like cruise ships that never sail. You'll have friends, activities, medical care right there when you need it." The woman in coral, Margaret from Sunset Manor, launched into a presentation about their luxury accommodations and restaurant-style dining. The man, David from Desert Rose, talked about safety features and emergency response times. The younger woman, who turned out to be from an estate sale company, said nothing but kept eyeing my grandmother's ring like a vulture spotting carrion. "We've already put down deposits at 3 places," Timothy announced, as if this was generous rather than presumptuous. "You can choose whichever feels right. We'll have you moved in by the end of the month." "And the house?" I asked, my voice steadier than my hands. "Listed Monday," Timothy said quickly. "We've got multiple interested buyers already. This market is incredible. You'll make a fortune, Mom, more than enough for the best care possible." That's when I noticed Christine was missing. Through the doorway, I could see stairs leading to the second floor. She was up there, in my son's house, but I knew with absolute certainty she wasn't in their bedroom. She was planning something else. "Where's Christine?" I asked. "Oh, she's just getting your surprise," Timothy said, but his eyes darted nervously. I stood up, ignoring the way everyone leaned forward as if I might topple. "I need to use the restroom." But I didn't go to the bathroom. I went upstairs, following the sound of Christine's voice. She was on the phone in the guest room, and the door was cracked. Yes, the entire jewelry collection, she was saying. Victorian pieces, Art Deco, probably $200,000 minimum. "I've got photos of everything. We can do the sale simultaneously with the house listing." On the bed were printouts from my house. She'd been there, photographing my belongings. My mother's emerald necklace, Richard's watch collection, the silver service from our wedding. Each item cataloged like evidence at a crime scene, with estimated values written in Christine's neat handwriting. But the worst part was the notebook beside it, Christine's notes from the past month. BC seems confused about dates, document, mentioned Richard as if still alive, good for competency case. Repeat stories, possible dementia? They'd been building a case to declare me incompetent. I took out my phone and photographed everything. The jewelry photos, the notes, the estate sale contracts with dates from before my birthday. Then I went back downstairs where Timothy was explaining how they'd already hired movers. "This is overwhelming," I said, sitting back down. "I need some time to process." "Of course," Margaret from Sunset Manor cooed. "It's a big transition, but the sooner you embrace it, the happier you'll be." I smiled at her. "You're absolutely right. In fact, Timothy, why don't you show them the paperwork you've prepared? I'm sure you've been very thorough." He beamed, pulling out a folder. Powers of attorney, medical directives, financial authorizations, all pre-filled, just waiting for my signature. The audacity was breathtaking. They'd planned to strip me of everything on my 70th birthday, packaging it as care and concern. "I'll need to review these with my lawyer," I said. Timothy's face tightened. "Mom, we're family. You don't need a lawyer." "Of course not," I agreed. "But Richard always said to have Harrison look at everything. You remember Harrison Webb, don't you? Richard's best friend. He still handles all my affairs." The room temperature seemed to drop. Harrison Webb wasn't just any lawyer. He was one of Phoenix's most powerful attorneys, semi-retired, but still sharp enough to terrify anyone who crossed his clients. Timothy knew him, had been terrified of him, since Harrison caught him trying to forge Richard's signature on a loan document when he was 25. "There's no need to involve Harrison," Timothy said quickly. "This is just family taking care of family." I stood up, gathering the brochures. "Of course, dear. Let me take these home and review everything. Such thoughtful research." I left Timothy's house and drove straight to Harrison's home. He lived in a mountainside estate in Camelback, and despite it being Saturday night, I knew he'd see me. Harrison had been warning me about Timothy for years. "Barbara," he said, opening the door himself, seeing my face, "what has he done now?" I showed him everything, the photos on my phone, the brochures, the timeline they'd constructed. Harrison's expression went from concerned to furious as he reviewed the evidence. "They've been planning this for months," he said. The estate sale company was incorporated in Christine's maiden name 6 weeks ago. They've already spent money they expected to get from your house. I can see it in these contracts. They're desperate. Harrison made calls, even at 9 on a Saturday night. By midnight, we had a complete picture. Timothy's restaurant failure had been worse than he'd admitted. He owed $400,000 to various creditors. Christine had been sued by her former business partner for fraud. They were about to lose their house, their cars, everything, unless they could get their hands on my money. But the most damaging discovery came from Harrison's investigator. 3 months ago, Timothy had taken out a loan against his expected inheritance, using forged documents suggesting I had terminal cancer. The loan sharks he'd borrowed from weren't the forgiving type. He needed my money not just for greed, but for survival. "We need to move fast," Harrison said. "They'll try to have you declared incompetent on Monday. The nursing home contracts include competency evaluations by doctors they've chosen. Once you're in, it's harder to fight." We spent Sunday preparing. Harrison drafted documents transferring my house to an irrevocable trust, moving my liquid assets to protected accounts, and most importantly, filing an elder abuse complaint with the state. By Sunday night, everything I owned was legally protected from Timothy's grasp. Monday morning came with Timothy pounding on my door at 7 a.m. I watched him from my bedroom window, phone in hand, recording everything. He had Christine with him, plus 2 men I didn't recognize, movers probably, or witnesses for their competency claim. "Mom, open up. We need to talk about Saturday." I called down from the window. "I'm not dressed, Timothy. What do you need?" "The realtor is coming at 9. You need to sign the listing papers." "I'm not selling the house, Timothy." His face went red. "You're not thinking clearly. That's why we need to do this now, for your own good." "My thinking is perfectly clear," I said. "Clear enough to know you've been planning to rob me for months. Clear enough to know about the loan you took against my supposed inheritance. Clear enough to know Christine incorporated an estate sale company specifically to sell my belongings." Christine's face went white. The 2 men with them exchanged glances and stepped back. "You're confused," Timothy shouted. "This is exactly why you need help." That's when Harrison pulled up in his Mercedes, followed by 2 police cars. Not sirens blazing, just a quiet arrival that somehow seemed more ominous. Harrison stepped out in his perfect suit, despite it being Monday morning, and walked up to Timothy with the measured pace of a man who'd destroyed bigger opponents than my son. "Mr. Coleman," Harrison said formally, "I'm here to inform you that your mother has filed charges of attempted elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial exploitation. The officers are here to ensure you leave the property immediately." Timothy tried to bluster, but Harrison had come prepared. He pulled out his tablet and showed the officers the evidence: the forged loan documents, the premature estate sale contracts, Christine's notes about building an incompetency case. The officers' expressions shifted from neutral to disgusted. "Additionally," Harrison continued, "the 3 nursing homes you contacted have been notified of your fraudulent intentions. Sunset Manor has already confirmed they're returning your deposit and flagging you in their system as attempting elder fraud. Christine's notes about building an incompetency case." The officer's expressions shifted from neutral to disgusted. "Additionally," Harrison continued, "the 3 nursing homes you contacted have been notified of your fraudulent intentions. Sunset Manor has already confirmed they're returning your deposit and flagging you in their system as attempting elder fraud." Christine started crying, not sad tears, but angry ones. "This is insane. We were trying to help. She's old. She's alone. She needs care." "What Mrs. Coleman needs," Harrison said coldly, "is protection from relatives who see her as an ATM rather than a mother." Timothy made one last desperate play. "Mom, please, you don't understand. I owe money to people who don't accept bankruptcy as an answer. If I don't pay them, then you should have thought of that before you gambled with money you didn't have," I called down, "before you decided I was already dead enough to steal from." The police strongly suggested Timothy and Christine leave. As they walked to their car, Timothy turned back one more time. "You're making a mistake, Mom. When you really do need help, when you're really alone, don't call me." "I won't," I said. "I'll call people who see me as a person, not a payday." They drove off, and I knew that was the last time Timothy would ever stand in my driveway as family. From now on, if he came near me, it would be as a threat the police would handle. The story spread through Phoenix's social circles like wildfire. Timothy and Christine became pariahs, their names synonymous with elder abuse. The loan sharks he owed came calling, and without my money to save him, Timothy had to declare bankruptcy and sell everything. They lost their house, their cars, their social standing. Christine left him within 6 months, filing for divorce and claiming she'd been manipulated. I changed my will completely. Everything now goes to charity. The library where I volunteer, the tennis club's youth program, a scholarship fund for nursing students. Timothy gets nothing, not even photographs. Those grandchildren he used as props in his scheme? I set up education trusts they can access at 25, but only if they have no contact with their father about money. The house remains mine. I hired a housekeeper, not because I need one, but because Maria is good company and her presence means I'm never truly alone. I installed medical alert systems, not because I'm frail, but because being prepared isn't the same as being weak. I still play tennis, still run the book club, still manage my investments. On my 71st birthday, I threw myself a party. I invited everyone except Timothy and Christine. Harrison gave a toast about the difference between growing older and growing irrelevant. The tennis club surprised me with a cake shaped like a tennis racket. My book club performed a dramatic reading of quotes about resilience. But the best gift came from an unexpected source. Sophia, my granddaughter, now 18, sent a letter. She'd figured out what her parents had tried to do, was disgusted by it, and wanted me to know she understood why I'd cut them off. She asked if maybe, someday, without her parents knowing, we could have lunch. I wrote back immediately. Yes to lunch, yes to a relationship, yes to showing her that women don't become disposable at 70 or 80 or ever. Timothy still sends letters occasionally, especially when his financial situation gets desperate. They follow a pattern. First comes contrition, then justification, then anger when I don't respond. The latest one accused me of destroying the family, of choosing money over blood, of being the kind of mother who abandons her children. I keep the letters in a file Harrison labeled evidence of continued harassment, because that's what Timothy never understood. I didn't abandon him. He abandoned me the moment he decided I was worth more dead than alive, more valuable as a bank account than as a mother. The Spanish colonial still stands in Paradise Valley, worth even more now than when Timothy tried to steal it. I've added security cameras, not because I'm paranoid, but because Timothy's creditors occasionally come looking for him here. I tell them truthfully that I haven't seen my son in over a year, that he's no longer welcome, that whatever debts he owes are his alone. Sometimes, late at night, I stand in the kitchen where Timothy used to do his homework, where he'd tell me about his day, where he was still my son and not my predator. I wonder when exactly he changed, when the child who made me Mother's Day cards became the man who plotted my imprisonment in a nursing home. But then morning comes, and I have tennis at 9, book club at 2, dinner with friends at 6. My life at 71 is fuller than it was at 60, because I'm no longer wasting energy on a son who saw my birthday as an estate sale opportunity. The birthday surprise Timothy planned was supposed to be my transition to irrelevance, my fade into institutional obscurity while he liquidated my life. Instead, it became his downfall and my liberation. He thought 70 meant weak, meant vulnerable, meant ready to be discarded. He learned what Harrison likes to say: the only thing that expires at 70 is patience for people who think you're already dead. I'm Barbara Coleman. I'm 71 now. I own my house, control my money, choose my life. And if Timothy thinks that makes me a bad mother, he's welcome to discuss it with the police who enforced the restraining order I finally filed last month. Some birthdays you celebrate with cake. Some you celebrate with freedom. My 70th was both, just not the way anyone expected.